Quick note, 24 was a TV show that premiered 24 years ago, and each episode took place over one 24-hour day cut into 24 one-hour episodes. They would remind you it was in real time with a dramatic beeping clock before the end of an episode or going into commercials. So, letting you know, the beeping sounds on this episode are from the show 24. Okay? Okay. Here we go. Hi, and welcome to The Perfect Show. I'm your host, Scott. I'm what you might call a perfection prospector, sifting through life looking for little things or experiences that could be considered perfect. Join me each episode as I examine one topic that I'm presenting as a little nugget of perfection. I moved to Japan when I was 24 and experienced the best haircut of my life.
The following takes
place between 2004 and 2025, with events spanning between the countries of the United States of America and Japan. Events occur in extremely compressed time. I mean, that's over 20 years, guys, so of course. For an American to move to Japan, you first need a visa. And in order to get a visa, you need to land a job who will sponsor you for one. A place that says, yes, government, we need this person to come in and we promise they will have a job when they get here. When I was 24, one way to get a work visa for Japan was through NOVA, a private English conversation school with many branches across the country. It was kind of a meat grinder, continually hiring young foreigners. I did an interview with them in Chicago, got hired, and then I got word that I had been placed, meaning I had been plugged into whatever city the next opening was at, so I bought a one-way plane ticket to Japan. I would be living and working in Kitakyushu, a mid-sized city of about 1 million people on the northern tip of Kyushu, the southernmost of Japan's 4 main islands. Kitakyushu is an industrial city. Steel is a major industry there. It was described to me as the Japanese Pittsburgh, which it may be, but I couldn't tell you because I've never been to Pittsburgh. I flew from Kansas City to Tokyo, and then on to Fukuoka, the largest city and capital of Kyushu. I took a train to Kokura, the city where I would be living. Working for Nova could be an all-encompassing lifestyle for a foreigner in Japan. Nova jobs came with Nova apartments and Nova roommates, which meant Nova friend groups and often Nova romances. Nova was also all English at work, all English at home, all English at hangouts. Nova sold their school as an immersive English experience, in part because they often staffed up with people who didn't speak Japanese. I was not in the right spot. I found myself living in Japan, but still having to work too hard to get to use any Japanese on the regular. I had my own problems with Nova, but the main problem was that the job felt like it was in an insulated bubble away from the real Japan. A bubble I knew I very much wanted to pop as soon as I could. This is where I had been lucky, arriving in March. In Japan, the public school calendar begins each year in April, making this the perfect time to test a hungry job market. So even though I had only been in the country and working for Nova for 2 weeks, I applied to, interviewed with, and got hired by a different company, all very quickly, becoming the new ALT at 2 Japanese junior high schools, places where I would be the only foreigner and all the other teachers would be Japanese. Japanese junior high school, or chugako, is grades 7 through 9. I would be an ALT, or assistant language teacher, and I'd be working in tandem with a few different JTEs at each school, Japanese Teachers of English. Each class would be led by a Japanese English teacher, the JTE, and I would also be there as the ALT, assistant language teacher.
Which is assistant sensei.
Assistant to the sensei, that's pretty cool.
Assistant sensei.
The JTE's job was the real teacher stuff, planning curriculum, assigning homework, giving grades, all that stuff. My function on paper was to be a native speaker and primarily help kids work on their pronunciation and grammar questions, sure, but honestly, I think I was mostly there to put a real-life foreigner in the same room with these kids. Sometimes, not infrequently, I would be the first non-Japanese person they'd have had any significant contact with. So, in a way, part of my job was to be an ambassador for the entire world outside of Japan. Oh, and to make games. A big part of my job was coming up with little games we could play in class that used English in some way, but were also fun and engaging. My first day was at Yoshida Junior High School, a small school on the outskirts of the city of North Kokura. I would be here every other week and teach at a bigger school in the city in between. But something about Yoshida felt more welcoming to me, and so it quickly became my favorite school of the two. Oh, right. It's probably partly because Yoshida was a much smaller school with fewer classes, so I had more free time to do other things. As for free time, when I wasn't needed in an English class, I was left back in the teacher's room. The teacher's room in a Japanese school is sort of like a teacher's lounge, but set up like a large classroom with desks for all the staff. Not in cubicles, but pushed up against each other in rows or little pods. This room was the base of operations for all the teachers when they didn't have a class to teach, me included. In Japanese schools, the students stay in the same cluster, in the same classroom, at the same desks, and then the teachers switch rooms each period instead of the kids. So it just makes more sense for teachers to keep their main desks down in the teacher's room. During those free periods, when I wasn't puzzling over how to make up interesting English learning games for Japanese tweens and teens, I would fill the time studying Japanese for myself. Meanwhile, another matter that I had handled temporarily before moving was starting to cause a problem again, and like a clock ticking down, it was becoming harder and harder to ignore. My hair. In my getting ready to move to Japan preparations, I had gotten a super short haircut right before I left, so I wouldn't have to think about it, and now, about a month later, I could tell that I was coming due again. Thinking back on all my years of language classes, mock conversations about eating and drinking, going places and buying things, I realized I knew how to say I had gotten a haircut, or was going to get a haircut, or was currently in the process of getting a haircut. Also, that I had been given a haircut, I wanted to get a haircut, and of course, the negative versions of all those sentences as well. I mean, one of the things I have always enjoyed about Japanese is conjugating verbs, honestly. It's a nightmare in English for sure, but you may not be surprised to find out Japanese has a much more rigid verb structure, which it follows closely. And so Japanese verbs conjugate quite predictably in a way I find pleasing as a language nerd. So I knew how to say all that. I could pull out the Japanese for talking about getting a haircut, but I had no idea how to go about actually getting one. Then, waiting for the bus home after work one day, I saw a house across the street where the lower level had a little barber pole attached next to the front door, which is apparently the international sign for haircut place. And so I made a note that this would be the place that I'd come back to when I was ready. What would I need to be ready? Well, first, a budget. I hadn't quite gotten my one and only paycheck from Nova yet, and my first paycheck from this new job wouldn't come for a while. I was just living off the quickly vanishing chunk of starting money I had brought with me. So, I wasn't flush with cash, and I also had no idea how much a haircut in Japan would even cost. Go ahead, think about it right now. Is it more expensive than where you live? Less? The same? Why? I mean, it's hard, right? Yeah, I didn't know either back when I was 24. So I potentially planned to spend, like, I thought my max would be 7,000 yen. Now, when I was in Japan, the exchange rate was 110 or 115 yen to the dollar. It moved around all the time, but basically, you could just add a decimal place and be 90% accurate. A budget of 7,000 yen was a budget of about $70. 63.63 to be more accurate. Now that same amount would be $48.18, by the way, due to inflation and exchange rates. 7,000 yen wouldn't be an insanely crazy amount to pay for a haircut, even back then. But prior to this, I had been like a $20 supercuts guy, so it would have been a big jump for me. I was hoping it would be under my 7,000 yen budget limit, of course, but I could see no way to check the price without just walking in. So I told myself I would ask how much it was, and if it was over my ceiling, I'd thank the person, walk out, and figure out some other way. I mean, I had more cash than that on me, but I was resolved that I shouldn't go above my limit. No more than 7,000 yen. I also prepared by taking some of the prep periods I had for preparing games and classes and using them to prepare for this haircut instead. I'm there at my desk in the teacher's room trying to learn the words I thought I would need, figuring out how to say shave the bottom parts really short, and I didn't even know how to look up what to say for the longer parts. Feathering? Blending? Several college courses in Japanese, thousands of flashcards, and hundreds of tests under my belt, and my current abilities in this situation basically boiled down to me walking in the door and saying the Japanese for, "Oh, hello, I'd like one haircut, please. I'll be taking no further questions at this time, thank you." But I did remember that I still had the universal language of pictures. So I drew out a comic book version of my head with the haircut I wanted. I wrote labels in Japanese with lines pointing to the relevant parts of the drawing. And then one afternoon, with that small drawing, a big mop of blonde hair, and all the confidence I could muster, I left Yoshida Junior High and headed to the haircutting place. My anxiety was at its peak as I reached that door handle, unsure of what would be on the other side. But I opened it and stepped into a totally normal Japanese hair salon, clearly catering to older Japanese women. And while there wasn't an audible record scratch when I entered, that's essentially exactly what happened. Every eye looked at me and every conversation stopped. Expressions ran the spectrum you might expect to see if one morning you woke to find a bear in your kitchen. Definitely bewilderment, a bit of apprehension, but mostly just a general confusion as to how a me had come to be there at all. I had walked into this small salon's lobby area. There were 2 haircut chairs, the kind that go up and down, spin around, and lean back, one already occupied by a woman having her hair done. There were about 4 other middle-aged Japanese women in the waiting area, the ladies who had all been talking before I walked in. So I was probably not in the right place. However, with 10 eyes all locked on me in a pretty small area, it became clear that simply ducking out was going to be a trickier mission. So I froze, unsure of what to say or to whom. I really wanted to leave, but I felt like I had to say something first to make some sort of comment on my way out the door. So I asked the closest woman how much a haircut was, and I thought I caught her saying it was 2,000 yen, so like $20. But then, in fast Japanese, she listed some other things that I didn't understand using haircut words I hadn't studied with other prices that I didn't catch. And not that I love admitting now when I don't understand something, but back then I was really in nod and smile mode a lot of the time. So when she got to the end of her spiel, I realized that she had asked me a question, but I wasn't sure what it was or how to answer. I remember just sort of giving her a blank look until a different Japanese woman came over, motioned for me to go to the empty chair, and I just went with it. I sat down, handed her the picture I had drawn of my own head with a shorter hairdo, and despite all my preloaded verbs and conjugations, I think I only said, "Kami o kitte kudasai." Please cut my hair. There was a lot of talk about what would happen next. Like talking around me, not talking with me. A lot of fast Japanese talk that I wasn't picking up, and the woman who sat me down had then placed a call on the store's phone. I heard a lot more Japanese, but my ears zeroed in on one word that flew by in particular. This was one I had picked up in my preparations, and also strangely never encountered in my years of Japanese classes prior. The word kinpatsu, literally translated as gold hair. It's the Japanese word for blonde, kinpatsu. A word I would pick up in conversations that happened around me in Japan a bunch after this and know that I was being talked about, but this was the first time it was happening. She listened for a second, gave a short response, and hung up. Then back to me as if nothing happened. I really didn't know what to think. What was that? No clue. But what followed was an experience, or rather a series of small experiences, like I had never had before. First, the chair got pumped up. Then I got turned around and laid back into a sink to have my hair washed. I had gotten this as part of a haircut in the US a few times as a kid, but not since becoming an adult. If you haven't had someone else wash your hair before, it's quite nice. You get the rare feeling of having the weight of your head actually in someone else's hands, letting them lather up your hair with soap and massage your scalp a bit in the process. Then wash all the shampoo off without you having to move your head around too much to get all the areas. In that way, it feels way nicer than just washing your hair in the shower. And I'm just now realizing that I haven't had anyone wash my hair for me maybe since this very haircut, but I do clearly remember how it feels from this one and the few times when it happened to me as a kid. So this is a vividly locked in sense memory for sure. After the shampoo, she wrapped my head in a towel, and then the first new experience hit. While I was still horizontal, she got a hot towel out of some steaming cube thing and then laid it down on my face. Now, I had never had a hot towel placed on my face before. It's nice. A little jolting at first, especially if you haven't ever done this before and weren't expecting it, but your skin quickly adapts to the warmth and you close your eyes and it's just like a nice, pleasant heat. In fact, the only unpleasant part was this nagging sensation in the back of my mind that maybe I hadn't quite ordered this haircut right. Because while the heat of the towel was relaxing, it also wasn't, because I was pretty sure this wasn't part of a normal cut. After a bit, the hot towel came off my face, and then as I expected to sit up for my haircut, I stayed down, and instead, this nice woman brought a brush over and started to lather up my face. Looks like this was going to be a shave now, too. And that would make it the first time someone else was going to shave me ever. Another first. So she foamed my face up, and then she really surprised me by pulling out a straight razor, like the hingy kind that opens up. At home, I was an electric razor guy almost exclusively and had never even thought about going Sweeney Todd style before, but now this Japanese woman that I was only kind of successfully communicating with was set to glide this sharp razor all around my throat. I also knew for sure now I was getting something different than what I wanted, which meant a different, now unspecified price tag, so that was running through my head too. It was a short lived panic, though, because I quickly discovered that being shaved by someone who knows what they're doing is really, really nice. And after the hot towel and now this shave, I told myself the price didn't matter. I would still be thrilled if whatever I ordered came in at under my 7,000 yen limit, but I guess I would understand if it didn't. This was amazing. She went over my entire beard area, trimming away every single hair until I was more sharply shaved than I had ever been as an adult. I was pretty much in a different mental state from that point on. Something about getting the shave, then having your face wiped off and an aftershave applied, you get a feeling like your skin is vibrating, hot and cold simultaneously. Now, fully shaved and sitting back up, I saw that a new woman had joined us in the shop, and it soon became clear that this was who my stylist had called on the phone. She was an older Japanese woman, and I'm going to make some assumptions here because I was translating the best I could in the moment, but it seemed like the older woman was the retired mother or mother in law of the woman who was cutting my hair. The woman cutting my hair thanked the older woman for coming and was like, "So, you've cut Kimpatsu hair before?" And this is when the older woman smiled and said, "Nope, but I wanted to watch." And all the ladies laughed. Actually, the sound of these Japanese women talking and laughing about me was pretty constant throughout this experience, which I love. The mother and daughter now began to talk quickly, and the younger woman started cutting my hair. I was no longer being consulted about anything, which was completely fine by me, too. The haircut was superb. She really went through and made sure it was all short and laid correctly. Great haircut. So at least that part of my worry was put at ease. Whatever I would end up paying, I would at least come out of it with a decent haircut. And a shave. And a story. It might be closer to that 7,000 yen ceiling on my budget, but also totally worth it for a solid haircut and my first straight razor shave. It was that memorable of an experience. But she wasn't quite done yet. Next, the straight razor comes back out, and I experienced not just a series of firsts, but a series of news. As in new things I didn't even know were things. I'm trying to say that this woman shaved my forehead, and like the sides of my eyes. There's no hair there, but she shaved it. I don't get it. But yeah, she shaved my forehead neighborhood, cutting all the tiny invisible hairs that did exist, but I didn't know about. Weird feeling, good, but weird. Then she brought the razor in to tighten my hairline on the front and the sides and all across the back. Next up were my ears. Yeah. She took the razor swiftly into each ear and then along the outside, removing any peach fuzz. All still unexpected, by the way. Everyone around me seemed to be talking, mind you, but no one was talking to me. And when someone has a razor whipping around next to your ear, it turns out that you don't talk much either. You sort of just sit still and try not to move the best you can. She then put the razor down, but picked up some tweezers and turned back to my face, proceeding to pluck my eyebrow hairs. So I got my brows shaped, another first for me. Now, every hair on my head that I could imagine, and even some that I couldn't imagine, had already been cut, so I figured we were done, but instead, she grabbed my head with her bare hands and started giving me a scalp massage. You know those head massager things, the wooden ones with the forearms, and then they have like wooden balls on the end, or the metal one that looks like a broken whisk and you push it down over your head or whatever? Garbage. Throw them in the garbage compared to what this woman was doing. From my head, she moved down to massage my neck and then my shoulders, also amazingly, and at this point, I'm now completely past my budget ceiling mentally. Like, whatever this costs, it will have been worthwhile. I'll pay it and figure out where I went wrong later. My mental calculator was still pre-tabulating, though. I'm now guessing we had blown past 7,000 yen into more like 13,000 yen, Ichiman Sanzen yen, around $130. Definitely not something I could do every month on my salary and with the Japanese cost of living, but would I gladly pay it this time for what I just got? Yes, I would. Absolutely. Then the woman walks away for a minute, leaving me, this big Caucasian stick of butter, just sitting there, almost entranced. And then when the woman comes back, she removes the drape I was wearing and hands me something. I reach out and take it. It's cold. It's an ice cream sandwich wrapped up in paper. She's still talking, everyone's still talking, and now I'm suddenly holding ice cream, a thing I'd try never to do without a plan. Ice cream, by its very nature, is a ticking clock. It has to be, especially in southern Japan, so I knew this was the end of my magical haircut experience. I braced myself to just smile and pay, and then she rang me up for 2,000 yen, $20, 1739 to be specific. But that was it. No tax, no tip, because there's no tipping in Japan, not because I'm a jerk, but just 2,000 yen displayed in front of me on the register, and I was shocked. I paid. I left. I stood outside on the street that afternoon. I unwrapped the ice cream sandwich. It was the classic kind with vanilla ice cream between two chocolate wafer rectangles. I ate. I walked. I reflected. And I think I locked in a certain amount of faith in humanity that I hope never goes away. I feel like some sort of door was opened to me that afternoon in a way I can't fully describe, but it was both a familiar experience and a foreign one at the same time. The familiar experience of a haircut, but one unlike any I'd ever had before. Being taken care of like that, pampered, worked on, fixed up like a car in the shop, for them to usher me in instead of asking me to go somewhere else, and all the kind attention that was paid to me. As a result, I really did feel spectacular. You leave a good styling with an extra pep, a palpable energy, feeling refreshed. It gives you a real confidence boost. For a kid from Kansas who was now in the middle of Japan, every bit of boost was welcome. I ate the ice cream sandwich as I walked back to the bus stop, enjoying the wind blowing through my new haircut. I pulled out my iPod, plugged in my headphones, and I didn't say anything. There was no one to talk to. I felt different though. I had just gotten a haircut and a shave, but I think I was also learning something about myself. Uncertainty can make me anxious, but kindness can bring me back. When I wasn't quite sure how to get what I needed, I proactively took the first step, sure, but ultimately I was met halfway by someone who helped me through. It was the quality of the experience and also the wonder of it, feeling like I hadn't found it so much as it had somehow found me, and feeling like I got a priceless service in a way that didn't break the bank for me. I stepped onto the bus with less hair, but with more confidence that people in the world will be there for us when we need help. I sat back, listened to my music, and let the bus drive me away. Straight razor shaves became the norm for me in Japan after that. Not for every time I shaved, but practically every time I got a haircut. On those occasions, I would go to actual barbers for men where I lived instead of a woman's salon near my work, and I would get a haircut and a shave both on purpose and using the right Japanese, but none of these cuts ever measured up to this first one. I mean, with the surprise element and all the extra details, I'm not sure how they really could. But then this is something that becomes difficult to recreate, because by now I've had that experience a bunch of times. Even though I haven't had a shave since I moved back to America, if I got one now, it still wouldn't be like that first experience. I couldn't recreate my first straight razor shave. I mean, not with this old face. What if we could find someone with a different face than mine, which is everybody, and then just figure out how to switch faces somehow, maybe? Like some method by which we could swap my old face with someone else's young face. Thankfully, back in 1997, Nicolas Cage provided us a simple way to solve this very problem.
Tiny surgery. I'd like to take his face off.
Yes. You want to take his face?
Yes. His face off. The eyes, nose, skin. skin
Coming off.
the face.
This is a scene from the movie Face / Off. And this is the part where they are taking the face off of John Travolta and replacing it with the face of Nicolas Cage. Hear that? That's the face-off lasers that are cutting the faces off. Hey Google, is face-off surgery covered by my insurance?
The term face-off surgery is not a standard medical term. It seems to allude to a complete facial transformation, perhaps similar to what one might see in science fiction. In the context of insurance coverage...
Not a real Okay, well, I guess I'll have to resort to Plan B. So Plan B is way less complicated than Plan A, because Plan A had insurance copays and face-off lasers. But Plan B is also tricky because it relies on heaping my little quest onto someone else's shoulders, or face in this case. Plan B would really just be to find a 24-year-old who hasn't ever had a straight razor shave and then set them up to see how one feels for the first time. It would recreate the experience and also pay it forward, giving someone a sort of pampered experience out of nowhere and then just sending them on their way. No problem, just need a 24-year-old. Except that I'm not 24 years old anymore, nor are any of my friends. Okay, so maybe one problem. Where to find someone who's 24? It was actually not that long of a search. There's really only one place in my life that I come into any regular contact with people in their 20s at all, and that is at the jiu-jitsu gym. For Brazilian jiu-jitsu, the martial art I've been doing for a long time, you join a gym, and then on any given night, you could spar or train with partners who are older, younger, bigger, or smaller than you. It's just whoever's there. It's easily one of the most age-varied spaces I go to, and so when I needed to recruit someone who was 24 for this task, I thought of my friend Jose. Jose Vidal does jiu-jitsu with me at Magalit Jiu-Jitsu in San Francisco, California, our gym in the Mission neighborhood. We would talk small stuff and chit-chat here or there, but I didn't know exactly how old he was, and he didn't know that I make a podcast. So one day I had to go through the awkward moment of like, "Hi, how old are you?" He was 24. Perfect. "Have you ever had a straight razor shave before?" He hadn't. Normal questions like that. So I told Jose what I had in mind, and he said he would be down. We were all set to go, except that this was back in the year 2022. But then a certain unnamed person named me stopped making episodes, and so we paused for a while. I still did jiu-jitsu with Jose. We just didn't talk about the podcast thing. But now it is 2025. I'm back in. Jose is back in, and we are back on. Can you tell me your name and your age, please?
So my name is Jose Vidal, and I am 27 years old.
So, right, yeah. Jose isn't 24 anymore, of course. But he was 24 back when I originally asked him to do it. So we're going to say that still counts. Look, I want to still use my 24 sound effects. I mean, we also can't switch to 27 at this point because I definitely don't have the funds to buy 27 dresses. And most importantly, Jose was willing to help me carry out this mission. And we would be doing our mission in the historic Mission District of San Francisco, on Mission Street even, because that's the street where Magalit Jiu-Jitsu is at 29th and Mission, like I said earlier, but also because just down away on the same street is a place called Barber and Gent. The logo on their window has a straight razor graphic that I noticed when I walked past, and it just seemed like a sign, literally, that I should keep it all there in the same neighborhood. I got in touch with the owner, Ivan Gomez, and we set up a time at his shop for Jose right before a wedding he'd be attending. And Jose was shaggy, which was totally on me because we had loosely planned to do it in May, but we had been moving back and forth trying to figure out a time between his schedule and mine. Now we were at the end of May, and his hair had been growing the whole time, of course.
Yeah, so basically everybody's been asking about why I've been holding off on my haircut today. And I've been telling them that I've been holding off for today specifically because you wanted to run this podcast. And I had to explain to them the whole idea, and they were very confused. So hopefully today will clear things up.
Have people been commenting on your hair recently?
Oh, my hair's long.
My hair's hella long.
All right, so this is something we need to do today.
This
Okay,
is something we need to do.
great. We headed down to Barber and Gent, which is also a hair salon called Blanca's Art of Hair. That's what's printed on the awning. More on that later. But walking in was like going through a little portal. stepping into an old barber shop with classic red barber chairs and black and white photographs on the walls. History was everywhere, and so were the sounds of music, clippers, and conversation. We connected with Ivan and his stylist Sarah. I introduced Jose, and they had him take a seat in one of those red chairs.
All right, Jose. What's your last name, Jose?
Vidal. V-I-D-A-L.
Vidal.
Vidal. Yeah.
Good to meet you. I'm Ivan Gomez.
Nice to meet you, Ivan.
Welcome to Barber and Gent.
Thank you for having me.
So, what did you have in mind for your haircut today?
Do you mind if I pull up a picture and show you what I've gotten before?
No, go ahead. Yeah, that's perfect.
So usually I do something kind of natural. It's kind of what I've had before.
This made me smile. Looks like the picture method I used in Japan is still a go-to today, even without the language barrier. After talking about the style, Ivan sets up his equipment and lays everything out at his station. Then he starts the haircut and lays out a bit of the shop's history as well. Here are some good moments from that conversation.
The business has been in my family for 45 years this year.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it's like a long time that we've been here.
When did you guys first open up?
My mother started the business back in 1980.
Okay.
That was Blanca's Art of Hair, the name on the awning.
You know, our family's deeply rooted in the Mission District, and my parents know a lot of people. My father, had a radio show on Spanish radio on Sundays that talked about politics more than anything. He was helping immigrants, guiding immigrants through legal matters for, to gain literacy and knowledge for, to have sound legal status in this country.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a trip because his show was like the Spanish Jon Stewart kind of style, where it was like politics, but it was comedy at the same time in Spanish. So people would call in and they would joke around and stuff like that. And at that same time, my mother had a show on the radio where she would come on, every now and then she would come on, and it was called Beauty Tips with Blanca. And so she would get on the radio and talk to the ladies about hair fashion and beauty and, skin, hair, and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she was very involved with that. And, we've been around for a long time. We know a lot of people in the area. But growing up in the 80s, 90s, like early 90s, there was a lot of gang activity going on the streets of the Mission. I went to private elementary school, so I would come home to the hood from being like at a prestigious school and having to dodge, like all the hoods in the neighborhood trying to recruit me to join their gang,
Yeah. Everybody's trying to pull you in, right?
Trying to pull me in. And so my mother's way, my parents' way to keep me out of trouble was to keep me behind the barber chair. So they're like, you got a choice. You either after school you play sports. If you're not doing that, you're working at the barber shop.
Ivan moved away from barbering as an adult and went to school for design, but Ivan discovered that working as a designer wasn't quite what he'd imagined.
I sat in a cubicle for about 7 years. And then the economy took a dive and people were starting to get laid off. And at the time I was living on my own. I had an apartment in the peninsula. I remember calling my mother worried, like, what am I gonna do? I think I might get laid off. My mom goes, what are you worried about? You're a barber.
It's true.
She goes, you could come back and cut hair again. And I said, I guess I can. I go, I'm kind of rusty. She says, I get back in here. And so I did. And when I came back, I realized that not only was I not like trapped in a cubicle, but I enjoyed my time more, and I actually started making more money. Yeah.
Then there, working inside his mother's salon, which Ivan took over fully about 10 years ago, he used his design background to create Barber and Gent, while still keeping Blanca's art of hair, and the business became both a hair salon and a barbershop in one, honoring both of Ivan's parents.
That's how Barber and Gent was born. So the B&G are the initials of my father's name, Barney Gomez. And so he passed away in 2006, and he was part of the inspiration of Barber and Gent because, and I have it displayed on the walls in here, but basically growing up, I grew up around men in my life that I felt were important, like my father's friends, my uncles.
Ivan was surrounded by men in his life who were well-groomed and stylish, and it made him want to cater to clients who appreciated those finer things and provide that kind of service to others.
And so there's a little bit of a difference of how we do things here at Barber and Gent. We use certain products here that are classic products. We pre-shave with oil from Italy because that's the way the old man used to like to do it. We use this stuff called Musco Real. It's the best pre-shave oil in the market. Ooh. We use bass brushes, the best brushes in the market. You know, we use a lot of classic things that still work today. So, you know, for Jose today, what I'm shooting for is to create like a sort of time travel for him.
Nice.
Where, you know, he's getting his hair done like the way it was done
the old school.
50 years ago, you know, 60, 70 years ago.
It's crazy.
What do you think? Like, where are you from?
I mean, I was born and raised here, but I jumped around a little bit. Like I was saying, you know, I was born.
As the haircut continued, Ivan and Jose swapped stories about growing up in San Francisco, about their families and neighborhoods, just classic barbershop stuff. Ivan finished Jose's haircut, and then it was time for the shave. He dropped the chair back and started by pulling out an eyedropper and then dropping a pre-shave oil on Jose, then a cream.
So now that we've applied the Ultra Glide cream, we're gonna go ahead and apply a hot towel, and Sarah's gonna assist me here. So we're just gonna go ahead and rest the towel over your face there. And we're gonna leave that there for about 5 minutes. Get those pores all the way open so that we can start our shave. And here at Barber and Gent, we choose to use the Astro blades. They're from Germany.
Okay.
So we'll set that up. I'm about to set up the blade onto the handle right now.
And are those different than the ones that like the flip open type things, or how are those?
Yeah,
because those you don't dispose of.
There's two kinds. There's the kind that flip open that are classic. It's like a blade that you have to sharpen and hone with the leather strap.
Right.
And just from being around older barbers, they were happy when the disposables came out, because honing the old blades is almost like an art in itself.
Yeah.
It's really hard to do. And I find it to be a little more sanitary to be able to get a disposable blade, load it onto your handle, use it, dispose it. You know, if you're at home and you have your own blade, then I think it's a good use if you have your own for your home.
Gotcha.
But in a place like this where we're doing more of a commercial setting, yeah, we want to dispose.
You don't want to be shared. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So I had been thinking all flip open straight razors were the same thing, just the single Sweeney Todd type blade, like a small cleaver on a hinge, but this was more of a contraption, like the difference between a wooden pencil and a mechanical pencil, but for blades. It was a neat little handle for sure, and I gotta say, I'm not mad at the point about it being way more sanitary.
So we'll set this up right now.
Oh, I see.
So let me get this blade out of this sanitation.
Oh, so it has a handle and stuff. You just changed out the blade. Ah.
And then we're gonna go ahead and change this out, dispose of the old blade, clean everything up over here, make sure everything is nice and tight and crispy.
It still had the same shape and flipping open action, but this was a handle with a slide that popped open and then a slot for you to insert a new razor blade into, after one little modification.
We're gonna split the blade in half.
What's up?
You have to split these blades in half.
Why? Oh.
Because when they come in like this. So this is meant to, these blades are meant to sit in a handle.
Okay, right.
Where they set down, and then there's like a steel plate.
Yep, I have
with
one
a
of those,
handle,
an old
and
school
you
one of
can
those.
use them. But when you're using it in a shaving handle, like the classic barber handle,
Then
you have
fold
to,
it in half.
You have to fold it in half.
You have to snap them?
You have to snap them like this.
Whoa.
And then you get half of the blade. You load it here.
And it's got the grooves already set. It's ready for it.
It's got the grooves where it sets right in there. It's already set.
Okay.
And then you slide it on. And
I've never seen that device. I was thinking it was like you were saying, the full piece. I'm like, oh, that's the one that I imagined.
No, you got to split them when you're using the classic barber handle. And now we're ready to rock and roll. Over here, what we do is we want it to be extra hot. So we'll take a little bit of this hot lather, just a little tiny bit, and then we'll apply some of that onto the face. So now we're gonna go ahead and, we were taught to do short strokes with this, it's really sharp. Just stretch the skin and here we go. And now I gotta really concentrate, so if I get a little quiet, don't mind me here, because,
And while it turns out having a razor to my throat makes it hard for me to ask questions, I do a little better when it's someone else's face getting the blade.
Gotta make sure we get every little hair.
So I asked Ivan how he learned to do this.
But straight razor shaving other people, I started doing that like in my early 20s because I was scared to do it. And the gentleman who used to cut my grandfather's hair came in here and taught me how to do it over a weekend. And the first thing he did was he gave me a balloon.
Oh.
And he gave me the blade and a handle. And he said, shave that balloon without popping it. I said, all right, give that a shot. And I did that. And then after I did that, he told me to put cream on my arm and shave my own arm so I can get a feel of what this actually feels like. And it's not, I'm not applying any pressure to Jose's face right now as I shave him. What I am doing is allowing this super sharp blade to do its work, I'm just gliding it very light-handedly. Because if you have to apply pressure, that's when you know you have a bad blade, and that's when you can get into some trouble. You shouldn't have to apply too much pressure, if any. Can you stretch your lip over your teeth? I'm gonna spray a little rose water The rose water, what it does is it cuts all the grease, so it like clears everything. So this is like the most natural way to cleanse your face, you know, without hurting it, you know. So just apply a little rose water, and then we just wipe everything down. Smells great too, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
That's the other thing that I like about what I do, you know. No matter who you are, old, young, this or that, regular person, VIP, whatever, everybody likes to feel like $1,000,000, you know.
Yeah.
Part of it is, you know, doing the actual service, and the other part is actually having a nice conversation and sharing some ideas. But letting the client escape for a little while, you know, because they got to get back out there in that hustle and bustle, and at least when they come in here, they can feel like that, you know, they escaped a little bit.
Oh, like I time traveled today.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna bring you back up, and we're gonna have you do a little sit up here. We're gonna style you a little bit, and then we're gonna let our girl Sarah, who's our #1 stylist, do the styling portion of the work. So go ahead and put a bow on Jose for me right now.
So Jose was now cut, shaved, and looking sharp. Sarah got him styled up while I took care of the tab with Ivan, and then we headed out.
Thank you. All right, Jose. How was that for you?
It was really good. I've never, like I told you, I never had a straight razor cut, and the way he talked about the stuff he was using too, you know, the oil,
Yep.
the hot towel.
Right.
I've never had that type of.
How'd you like the hot towel?
The hot towel was really nice.
Hot towel's good, right?
It felt really good.
It seems from the outside you're like, what am I gonna care about a towel?
Yeah.
Hot towel on my face? And
Yeah.
You're like, oh, this is good.
And just the way he was cutting it, like he said, he was gliding it.
Yeah.
I don't know what I was expecting. I was expecting it to cut in, you know, whatever.
Uh-huh.
It was really smooth.
Yeah, it's not. I feel like it's not what you're thinking. It's gonna.
No.
You're just like, oh, and it's just.
It was really smooth, just the way he took it off.
Okay. Well, how do you feel now? How do you feel with the shave? Or
I feel super refreshed. I'm glad that I came out and I had the experience.
Awesome, dude. How would you say this ranks for you as far as an experience? Is it? I don't know. Do kids
I think
say
this is
A tier, B tier, S tier?
Oh, this was an S tier haircut for sure.
Okay.
For sure. I've never, like I said, gotten a cut with the shave included, and it was.
It's kind of crazy.
It's kind of crazy.
Leveled up it is.
Yeah.
You're just like, oh,
I didn't
am I
know-
a king today? What is going on?
I didn't know how much it made a difference.
It's cool. And then the other thing that I wasn't expecting, part of mine, was as I was walking out my door, paying my bill. Well, before I paid my bill, as I was sitting there, this lady comes over in Japan, and I'm like blown away by what just happened. And then she walks up and hands me an ice cream sandwich.
She offered you an ice cream sandwich?
She just handed it to me. And so now I hand to you an ice cream sandwich.
Okay.
And that is your problem. You have to figure out what to do with it. But that is the end. That's the cherry on top of this experience. I hand you an ice cream sandwich and I say, I hope you enjoyed your time and thank you so much for helping me out, man.
I enjoyed this a lot.
Okay.
Thank you, Scott.
Fantastic.
After ice cream sandwiching Jose and sending him off, I talked again with Ivan and Sarah about the core of the experience I was trying to capture.
That feels like the magic trick. How does like a haircut and a shave make me feel like a completely different person?
When I was a youngster in the Mission, there used to be a suit store, and the place was called Siegel's Tuxedos.
Okay.
And it was an older Jewish gentleman who had been at that store for many years. I want to say over 40 or 50 years. and he sold suits in the Mission District. And I remember going in there to get a suit for an event that I had to go to. My father took me there, and I had the opportunity to talk to the actual owner, Mr. Siegel. And he looked at me, he goes, "You're a sharp kid." He goes, "Let me tell you something, son. This business, when you do it right, the client gets like a tingly feeling in the neck, like where you feel so relaxed that you're like almost transported to another space. Do you feel that right now?" And I said, "Yes."
That's it. I think that's what I'm searching for, like to recreate that.
Yeah, so it's like it's a weird kind of like, it's almost like you're like chakra, right? Mm-hmm. Like you're like you're doing, like you're in a yoga moment. I love it. But you know, it feels great when you're being tended to like that.
As a stylist too, these people are coming in and they're leaving happy, but we feel so happy that they're leaving, you know, thrilled or feeling better about themselves. That's kind of like, that's why I'm here.
That's got to be able to put that smile on someone's face and send them out the door.
I had a guy that came in here looking like a lion the other day. They're like, "Please do something with this." And I said, "What do you want me to do? Do you want, like, you have enough hair to where I can really give you a cool style, or do you want to chop it off?" He's like, "Please, pretty please take it off." So I gave the guy a fade and a comb over, and you know, he looked fantastic. There was actually a good looking guy behind all that hair. And you know, I mean, I like I say, you know, there's several things happening at the same time when you're getting groomed. You know, it's like a reset button. You know,
it feels like it's transforming way more than just how you look. You know,
yeah, it's definitely an energy booster. It's an energy booster. Yeah. It's, you know, your confidence, everything. You know, you never know, but people come in here and they definitely transform themselves, you know.
Jose out here going to a wedding.
Look, he had a daze in his eyes. I was like, I don't know if you're all there, man. You're still sort of lost in your thoughts.
Oh, I love that. That's great. Good job.
In the end, I wanted to give someone the chance to experience a haircut and a shave, sure, but I also wanted to recreate a situation I had where it felt like I wound up with a great thing that was just a product of being in the right place at the right time. I think it changed me for the better, and so this became about passing that optimism and others along somehow if I could. To provide someone a nice thing that they weren't exactly needing or expecting, partially in an attempt to keep creating a world where those things can and do happen to people. Just a quick burst of unexpected positive energy. The kind of thing, I think, has the potential to maybe stick with someone for the rest of their life. And with that, my first haircut in Japan and my first straight razor shave ever becomes the next entry into the Perfectorium, the index of perfect things. Go to the show's website, perfectshowpodcast.com, to see pictures and videos related to each episode. This time I, however, managed to delete all the pictures and videos that I took while I was updating the app before I had backed them up. I literally deleted them as I was transferring everything for this episode over to my computer because, of course, I did. I'm trying to tell myself that at least I didn't delete any of the audio for the episode, and that's a win, but man, I would have liked to have those pictures. I was able to get some photos from Sarah at Barber and Gent, and she's letting me post them on the website, and there will be a link to the spot on their site about the experience as well. You can see all the entries to the Perfectorium, including this one, at the direct link for it, perfectshowpodcast.com/perfectorium. Thank you to Jose Vidal for lending me his face for this. Huge thank yous also to Ivan Gomez for the excellent haircut and shave, and to Sarah Alfaro for styling, facilitating everything with Barber and Gent, and making the whole experience so smooth. To check out any of their services and book an appointment, you can go to barberandgent.com, all one word. Ivan also asked me if we could plug a company he works with to connect with other barbers and stylists.
Oh yeah, well, we want to give a shout out to our friends over at Boothie. That's Boothee. Download the app, and that's for, you know, barbers and stylists out there that you know, want to find a place to work. You join Boothie, and then you create a profile, and they can find you. All the different locations that are looking to hire can find you there.
So if you're a barber who likes the way Ivan does things, you can sign up through the app to get your own chair there to see your clients. You can find the info and links for Barber and Gent, for Blanca's Art of Hair, and for all the musical artists in the show notes and on this episode's webpage. As always, if you'd like to contact the show, you can email perfectshowshow@gmail.com and then connect on most socials to the name Perfect Show Show. Also, I do see the comments for episodes on Spotify. Thank you. Those are great. Once again, I'm back to saying that subscribing via your favorite pod portal really is the best way to get every episode. I mean, I got cocky just last episode to say that these come out every 4 weeks now, and then this one takes until now. Yeah, I know that's how karma works. I get it. But if you're this deep in the show and still here at all, then you're probably already subscribed to The Perfect Show. So thank you. But if not, I mean, just do it. If you're enjoying these and want to drop a perfect rating or review, please do. It's the easiest way to support the show. I'm continuing my season of reviewing other shows at the end of my episodes, and today I want to talk about a pod called Hyperfixed. Hyperfixed is a show made by Alex Goldman and his talented team. You might know Alex as one of the hosts of the podcast Reply All. You might know him as the author of many excellent tweets, like I do, or you might know him as the guy who found an answer to your odd question or a solution to your strange problem, because that's who Alex is on every episode of Hyperfixed. People submit their problems and Hyperfixed goes about fixing them. This is their first season and they're doing cool things. 2 of my favorite episodes have been 2 Birds, 100 Stones, which tells the story of a lost song, and Little by Little, where they go on a quest for a forgotten font. The episodes are charming and creative with weird tangents and satisfying payoffs. If you're a fan of this show, then there's a strong chance you dig Hyperfixed too, if you don't already. So let's leave a review. Open up the Purple Podcasts app on my iPad, search bar top right, Hyperfixed, Hyperfixed, all one word. There it is. It's a little cartoon of Alex walking with a microphone and headphones on. I'm going to edit out the downtime, and here you go. Rating 5 stars, title full of delights and surprises. The review reads, every episode of this show is a new little gem. Alex and his team are so great at making us care as they tell the story of a problem and how they fixed it. Quirky and inventive, fun and charming to the core. And submitted. There we go. This episode was recorded and mixed at Milky Way Studios in Oakland, California. And please know, I think I'm more of an old-timey comedy dork than most, and this whole episode being about a shave and a haircut, it took everything in me not to shoehorn the whole episode somehow down the rabbit hole for the jingle that goes, shave and a haircut 2 bits. I mean, I did research how the 2 bits in that phrase means 25 cents, and it comes from when they would literally cut up Spanish dollar coins like pizza into bits or pieces of 8, each one worth 1/8 of a dollar, so then 2 bits or 2 pieces of 8 or 2 pizza slices of the coin would be 2 eighths or a quarter, and that's how you get to 25 cents. Look, I wanted to go off on a whole tangent about it, but I ultimately decided I didn't want to hijack the show, and that I just simply didn't have enough time to include the shave and haircut melody anywhere at all in this episode. Although, says who, right? Podcasts aren't a set length. There's no time limit on these things. I could theoretically keep yammering into this microphone forever. I mean, it's not like there's a ticking clock somewhere that's going to fade in and start beeping and tell me it's time to stop talking in the show already. Oh. Anyway, until next time. I'm Scott Maupin, and thanks for listening to The Perfect Show.
I can eat 50 eggs.
And I had one more question that's kind of weird. Do you know what the show 24 is?
24. I don't... Does it have to do with news? If it doesn't, then I'm not too sure.
No, it's like a secret agent guy doing like counterterrorism action stuff. Kind of like an American James Bond guy. I don't know.
Okay, no, I don't then.
Haven't heard of it? Okay. Well, that's interesting.